Hello friends, it has been a summer. As I mentioned in the previous video in which you got to see, we moved to a new house, and so we've been settling in for the past 6 months. It was a little bit harder in the beginning because we were still trying to sell the old place, which literally just sold last week, so that took all summer long. I finished writing a book, I promoted a book, I released a book, I got very sick, and so it's been a bit of a time. And the thing is, I had mapped out some specific plans for this summer. This was to be the summer of my inner child. So what's that all about, right? Well, it started a couple years ago. I have a bit of an annual tradition where I get a tarot reading from a friend of mine, Angeliska of Sister Temperance Tarot. And I guess only having done this twice does not quite a tradition make, but it feels like that to me. And a theme that comes up a lot in our chats is that of childhood trauma is something that's frequently discussed. And in our talks, the concept of reparenting was introduced to me. So growing up in a dysfunctional family or a home where parents were overwhelmed or grieving or depressed or where there was substance abuse, many of us didn't get to have the loving parent that we desired or that we deserved. And our bodies store that trauma and neglect and rejection. And that yearning for the parent that you never actually had, or the emotional childhood needs that were never met, to quote my friend on a recent blog post of theirs, is a hunger that never goes away and is never really sated or fulfilled. And so reparenting the inner child focuses on making sure that it feels the value and love and protection that it lacked during childhood, where as adults we learn to nourish ourselves and tap into that connection within and elsewhere in our lives. And there's a whole lot to address in that conversation, and it involves a lot of tools that I don't have right now, like suggested reading and therapy and showing up for yourself every day in the act of lovingly tending to your little you, or my little me in this case. And so I thought I'd make a little video of some of the things I've been doing. And I'm not naive. I'm not trying to present any of this as a solution, right? But these are things that I started doing for myself to have fun, which seems like not a too intimidating place to begin, right? As an adult, I'm not even sure that I know how to have fun. I'm fairly certain that this has roots in the things that happened when I was a kid. There's hypervigilance about things seeming or feeling too good because there was always mom disaster looming just around every corner. So what was the point? And I think repression of my feelings overall, because I'm pretty sure that my mother suffered from bipolar disorder with those erratic and fluctuating mood swings and behavior. And so in never wanting to be that, I just squashed all feelings overall. And so fun just seemed like something other children got to have, but not little Sarah. I would have loved to sprinkled this video with photos of me as a child, and I can't seem to find any, but I did have one. So this is the little Sarah that we're talking about. And I love this photo because it looks like someone is like, oh, what a cute dress. And it's like, oh, this old thing. Anyway, little us, we deserve to have some fun. So that's kind of what I tried to do this summer. And I realized my idea of fun might be a little bit different. I'm, a bit of a hermit. I don't want to go out and party or, I don't know, whatever normal people do for fun. So this is all at-home stuff, which I'm more comfortable with anyway because of things in the world right now. I mean, I somehow got COVID and I don't even leave the house. So, I don't want to take any chances. But I guess obviously the first thing I did was I got the hair that little Sarah always wanted, which was to look like Stormer from the Misfits. And so we made it happen. And today we are wearing our sparkliest earrings. We don't match. We're wearing a bright orange Ghidorah t-shirt and a purple cardigan, but whatever, we feel super cute. Oh, and what have I been leaning on my desk? Well, that is a big pile of cookbooks. So that is the first thing little Sarah did. One thing that I loved to do when I was a kid, before I knew how to cook, obviously, was just to flip through my grandmother's cookbooks and look at all of the beautiful pictures and dream of the delicious things that I would one day learn to make. And so these are some of my favorite beautiful cookbooks to look at. I'll list them all in the comments, or the description box below. There you go. Isn't that one gorgeous? That looks like a freaking painting. And these are foods that I like to imagine that Dracula might serve to me. This is a cookbook that I saw on someone's blog ages ago. Posy Gets Cozy. She's a quilter who lives in Portland. Does anyone remember her? Oh gosh, and of course this one. This has the everything bagel casserole in it. And this is just a lot of gorgeous desserts. So, speaking of books and reading, I did a lot of reading this summer. And no, it wasn't any of the books that I talked about in the last video that I posted. I didn't read a single one of those books. I did, however, read 30 other books. So that'll take you into the next part of the video, where I got rewarded for all my reading with a personal pan pizza. So if you were a bookish little kid attending elementary school in the mid-'80s, it's possible your school participated in the Book It program, wherein you read a certain number of books, and I think you probably had to do book reports on them, or else how were they, establishing the metrics for this? But for every book you presented, you got a star on a little purple pen. And then once your pen filled up, you got a personal pan pizza from Pizza Hut. I don't know what brought up these memories for me lately, but for the past 6 months or so, I have been thinking about Book It and those personal pan pizzas a lot. I didn't feel like I really wanted anything from Pizza Hut though. So adult Sarah, who is allowed near a 500-degree oven, decided she was going to treat little Sarah to a personal pan pizza, or 4 actually, because this makes a lot of dough, for all the books that she read this summer. So I found this recipe on YouTube, and it seems really special because when you listen to the narrator, they do sound really young, like a kid or maybe someone in their early teens. Now, person who made this video, I am so sorry if you're actually in your mid-30s. I don't mean any insult. You sound very youthful. And so it just felt right for my little Sarah personal pan pizzas to use this recipe, and I'll link to it down in the description box. This was very easy. Regular pizza dough is a pain in the butt, but all you had to do was squash this one into the pan, and you don't even need a cast iron skillet. The other pan that I used is something I typically make brownies in, and it was just fine. So go read a bunch of books and then eat a bunch of pizza, or do it the other way around, because little you will appreciate books or pizza either way. As a child, I used to do a lot of art with my sisters. We'd sit around and color with crayons and colored pencils. As a matter of fact, I even have an example of this. Let's see here. So, I don't know where one of my sisters found this, but this is from one of our coloring sessions when we were kids. I think this was supposed to be some sort of acrobatic circus scenario, but I don't do anything at all like that anymore. I write about art, I think about art, I look at art, but I haven't doodled anything probably since I was in high school. I can't, I'm just frozen. I can't even pick up a pencil and put it to paper. So I thought I might try to get back to that as part of my next little practice for little Sarah. This is a Suminagashi kit that my youngest sister got for me a few years ago. Suminagashi is a Japanese art or process. It means floating ink. And you marble plain paper with water and ink to transform it into something vibrant and swirling and colorful. And I tried this a few times, and I find the process to be really meditative and soothing. And I know it sounds kind of cliche, but you just sort of let go of the outcome and just let whatever happens on that paper happen. And as you can see, I'm not that great at it, but you know, it's just a nice little thing to lose yourself in, and you might end up with something nice that you can use as a note card or a little piece of frameable art. Nothing I made on this day was all that great, but it's a fun little way to create, and it just feels sort of low stakes without a lot of pressure, and I really enjoyed the time that I spent doing it. I think what I'm going to do here, instead of speeding this footage up, I'm going to set it to a little bit of music and not talk at all. Maybe you can put this on in the background if you're someone who has been hesitant to start any sort of artistic practice. Maybe you're like me. You're afraid that you're not going to be perfect from the get-go, and any sort of less than perfect attempt is scary. I get that. So put me on in the background, see me flub around, and maybe dive in and flub around yourself. And we'll meet up at the end of this sequence. You can see me do this. When I was a little girl, one of my favorite things in the world was to go on walks with my grandfather. As an adult, I know that they didn't live out in the country, but when I was a child, that's what it felt like. I haven't always lived in Florida. I was born and lived in Ohio until I was like 8 or 9 years old. And their house lived at sort of the edge of a wooded area, and a creek ran behind their home. And my grandfather and I would walk out in the woods, and he'd point out birds and animals to me, and he'd pick flowers for me, and he'd shake buckeyes down from the tree for me. And I loved how cold and smooth they felt in my hand. I loved having pockets full of buckeyes and flowers. And as an adult, I still love to go on walks and look at flowers. Now, in my Florida backyard, it is not the same thing at all. But here's a little walk that I took recently. On TikTok, I follow an account called Art Therapist IRL, and this is a mental health professional who specializes in art therapy, which I think is really cool. She shares a lot of her practices and the exercises that she does with her clients, and this is one of them. It is what she calls a blackout poem. Now, I didn't have the black paint or the black markers. I just worked with what I had on hand, which was a bunch of colored pencils. I copied a page from a dream dictionary that I had, and I circled all the words that jumped out at me, and I just went to town. Afterwards, I doodled some flowers on it, and I hung it up on my refrigerator, which I hope my mother would have done for me as well. As an adult, I know that my mother struggled. She dealt with mental health issues, she had substance abuse issues, and I now know that she was doing the best she could with what she had to work with. I also know that as an adult, a busy adult, with whether you have issues or not, kids are a lot. Messy kids are a lot. Nobody wants to be cleaning sprinkles off the floor. Nobody wants to be rolling out sugar cookies. Even my grandmother, who loved to bake, hated making sugar cookies. And nobody ever got little Sarah the really good sprinkles. So for our last hurrah this summer, we made princess dress cookies with the most extravagant, opulent sprinkles that we could find. And of course, little Sarah likes to smell like a freaking dessert cart. So I'm going to share a few of my favorite vanillas and chocolates and gourmands and just angel food cake-esque fragrances. Some of you may be surprised to see that I own a bottle of Ariana Grande's Cloud, but this is such a good marshmallow skin scent. And then there's Vanille Noir du Mexique, which smells like having a hot cocoa with a friend. while you desperately try not to ask her about the green velvet ribbon around her neck, while you're both becoming hypnotized by yellow wallpaper. Then we've got Madar by Posey and Dana Oshie by Black Phoenix Alchemy Lab, and I know I just pronounced that wrong, but we'll let it slide. And these are both sort of rice pudding scents. There's Bohemian Oud, which is a sandalwood chocolate mousse, and Hanamori, which is another vanilla, and Outremer's Vanille, which is like pure vanilla extract. And then Imaginary Authors collab with Salt and Straw, which is, well, you can see what that is. And yes, you need it. So this is little Sarah's scent wardrobe for the summer and perhaps for the foreseeable future. So that was a lot, and I thank you for sticking with me through it to the end. I hope, I hate to say something like, I hope it inspired you to blah, 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 because I don't know, who am I to be inspiring people, but maybe it sparked something for you. Maybe you'll try something that I talked about in this video. Maybe you'll read 30 books and eat 4 pizzas. And I do highly recommend that. So I would say, hopefully my next video won't be so self-indulgent, but you know me, and I can't make those kinds of promises. But there will be a next video at some point, and I'll be talking about something, so I hope you'll join me again. And until that time, till later, weirdos.